one of my favorite people on the planet. David, I have known you we've been here since 2006, so I've known you since then.
Right.
You've been involved in so many different types of things, but in particular, one of the things that I think is your strength is you have the entrepreneurial spirit. So talk us through your career, and this will help introduce you to who you are. You have your amazing wife, Anita, and your 2 children, and your beautiful grandchildren, and that are all local. And now you are also epitomizing what we call generational wealth.
I am.
Yes. So tell us about that.
Oh my gosh.
And he can tell you all the triathlons.
Well, we'll get to that because
Okay.
we're going to talk about his characteristics and. For you that are here, he's actually one of the people that I admire most as far as his grit. And we're going to tell you some stories about that in a minute. But go ahead.
I'm so touched. Thank you. My story is incredible. And the thing that I have to say is I rarely can sit through a 2-hour meeting. I'm ADHD to the 10th level. Entrepreneurship is in my blood. I eat, sleep, and drink it. I really loved Greg's talk and his story, just a lot of passion, and I love how he's thinking all the time, and that's kind of how I did my career. So I'll start. Should I start from the beginning?
Yes, start from the very beginning.
It's an incredible story. I believe that we can all do hard things. I was adopted into a couple. My father was from England. My mother was full-blooded German. She gave me up for adoption because he didn't want to marry her. He didn't want to have children, and anyway, long story short, they gave me up for adoption. The 2 people who adopted me, they divorced. My mom remarried 3 more times. My dad remarried again. That's 8 parents. By the time I'm 9 years old, I had 8 parents, 35 stepbrothers and sisters. When I was 35 years old, I found my natural mother from Germany and found out that my dad, who didn't want me, came back and married her and had 2 more children. So I have 2 full brothers that I never met until I was 35 years old, and they're both in business with me now. So kind of cool. But I went through divorces. I went through a lot of abuse and a lot of horrible situations growing up. And to tell you that no matter what you're going through, you can get through it. We can all do hard things. And I was able to accomplish that. When I was 10 years old, I remember going to a judge, and the judge asked me who I wanted to live with. And I chose my father. Back in those days, you always went with the mother, so it was unusual. After her 3rd marriage, the judge let me go with my dad. My dad was in the oil rig business and hurt his back, and so he opened a restaurant called Herman's Pig Pen. How sad is that?
Didn't know that. That's
in
hilarious.
Oklahoma, Herman's Pig Pen, and I was a car hop at 9 years old. From 9 to 12, I car hopped at Herman's Pig Pen. And I would even walk from school to help with the lunch rush and go back to school. A Sonic drive-in moved in across the street from us. This was in 1972. And the last day Herman's was open, they did $30 in sales because the Sonic was blowing us out of the water. And so my dad raised a white flag, walked across the street, and got into the Sonic drive-in business. So when I was 12, we moved to the Memphis area, just south of Memphis in Mississippi, for his first Sonic. And I became a car hop, a cook, and then an assistant manager. And then my dad kind of retired, and I worked for Sonic. I traveled all over the country opening new Sonics and really enjoyed it. I love the fast food business because of my ADHD problems. I can do 10 things at once, and I love getting food out the door, and plus I love to eat. So I was able to enjoy the Sonic business, working for corporate and others and opening new stores. In 1982, I married the daughter of a surgeon, an ophthalmologist. And when I married her, my father-in-law asked what I was going to do for a living, and I said I was going to flip hamburgers. That didn't go well. His son was a doctor, a psychiatrist, and his daughter married an attorney. And his daughter was not going to marry a burger flipping guy. So I went to college. I ended up getting an MBA at University of Memphis. I did my undergrad out in Utah and then got my MBA. after my MBA, I thought, okay, I need to get a real job. And so I did. Had a secretary, had an office, wore a suit to work, hated every minute of it. I wanted Sonic so bad. So I convinced my wife to let me go back to Sonic. We were driving from Memphis to Atlanta, stopped in Nashville. This is 1986. And the Sonic in Franklin, anybody know where that is near Franklin High School, Hillsborough Road? It was a liquor store. It used to be a Sonic. It closed. Sonic had a rough go in the 70s and became a liquor store. So I walk in the liquor store. I'm just out of MBA school, and I asked the guy if he was willing to sell it. And he told me that he had just got caught selling liquor to a minor and was willing to sell it. So I offered him $150K on the spot. I didn't have a dime. I was making $18,000 a year working for a Holiday Inn. And I offered him $150K. So what I did, he said yes. I went and got 3 investors, and they all put up $60,000 each. That's $180. And then I gave them 20% ownership each. I took 40%, and I was going to do all the work. So I did the sweat equity. And so I started my first Sonic in Franklin. 2 years later, I bought all 3 partners out, and just had a great business. Started building. The sales started to go up. I ran that store for about 3 or 4 years, working 80, 90 hours a week. I remember one night I slept on the rack where all the storage sits and used a bag of Fritos for a pillow. I mean, I put in a lot of hours to try to build that business. I ended up in Ashland City, kind of towards Clarksville, found a piece of land for $30,000 and made an offer to buy it, and went to a bank. I went to probably, that's why I asked you, that was the hardest part of my career, was that first loan.
Oh, yeah.
That first loan was so hard. I wore a suit to all these banks begging for money for this $30,000 piece of land that I wanted to build a Sonic on it. And I finally got a guy to loan me the money. And he ended up loaning me the money on the appraised value. So I was able to massage an appraiser and get him to appraise it for more than it was really worth. So I borrowed 100% of the money for my first Sonic in Ashland City.
No
and
money down?
Pardon me?
No money down?
I didn't put any down.
Yeah.
No, I got so lucky. And we opened, and it was the biggest thing since sliced bread in Ashland City. And we had to hire a policeman to help with the traffic. It looked like Chick-fil-A does today. But that was my first store. That year, I did 6 of them. And if you can imagine what it takes to buy 6 pieces of real estate and to put Sonics on them. And I had an amazing career with Sonic. I've owned probably 50 or 60 of them. And my greatest moment was March 31st. I sold 22 stores and 17 pieces of real estate. And so my generational wealth is now well established. One of my heroes is Ray Kroc, the McDonald's owner.
Yeah.
He was in a setting similar to this, and he said to them, "What do you think I do for a living?" And they were like, "You flip hamburgers." He's like, No, I'm in real estate. And I learned that from the beginning of my career, and so I started buying these $30,000 pieces of real estate and putting Sonics on them. And now, on March 31st, I flipped them for 5 caps and millions of dollars. It's a great day for me and my family. I'm so excited. Thank you. I'm going to be Greg's neighbor. I bought a house in Naples already, and so I've loved it. Now, that doesn't mean I haven't had some tough periods. I had some things that didn't go well in my Sonic career. I thought I was better than just Sonic, so I tried the construction business. I built 60 homes back in 2005 to 2008. And guess what happened?
2008?
Yeah.
Guess what happened? I had 12 spec houses, all at $1 million apiece, or over $1 million each. So I really got into a bad situation. I had to carry those for a few years and pay interest on them until I finally sold them. So that's one of the mistakes I made. However, I did sell 60 houses before we had the carpet in them back in 04, 05, so it was a good time as well. And then, right towards the end of my Sonic career, because I'm 62, and I knew I was kind of winding down, I found this great buyer, and I had this deal working. One of my managers came to me and said, I don't see a future for me in Sonic, but there's this cookie company called Crumble Cookies that is amazing. And so I looked at it. So I now have 4 Crumble Cookies. I have the one in Maryland Farms that we just rented the old Pizza Hut space right here next to Brugger's Bagels. So we're going to move it to Franklin Road.
Congratulations.
It's going to kill it there. I have 3 stores in Memphis, one in Germantown, one in Mendenhall, and one in Olive Branch, Mississippi. My Mendenhall store has done $3 million this year in revenue. In cookies. In 1,200 square foot of space. $3 million. And profit margins over 20%. So it's freaking amazing. So I'm having a lot of fun doing cookies right now.
And you are enjoying the fruits of his labor.
That's right, and those were yesterday's cookies. I'm not going to give you the fresh ones. But I've had a great career, and it's been a lot of fun, and March 31st was just a glorious day to sell all that real estate.
It's been a big year for you in a lot of different reasons, huh?
Indeed. Yep.
So talk about your family involvement. So did Anita help you, or did your son or daughter, or your daughter or son, or your son-in-law?
Absolutely. When my daughter, on her 3rd birthday, is when we opened the Franklin Sonic. And she would sit at the desk and color, and she would play in boxes of cups, and she made her little playhouse in the back of the Sonic. And my wife would car hop and I would cook because we didn't have a lot of sales. We had just started. And then when I opened 6 stores a few years later, my wife started doing the books for all the stores. And that was very helpful. And then my daughter grew up in the business. Her husband actually helped me with my exit strategy. He was my partner in 22 of the stores, and he sold out as well on March 31st. So my family's been very involved. Yep.
Cool. So obviously grit is something that it's a characteristic that I believe in very strongly. And if you want to be on, if you have any aspirations of working for SVN XL Commercial Real Estate, one of the big qualifications he would totally fit would be that you have to be able to overcome hard things. We want to see that you have actually overcome adversity. And so for the agents that you have met that work for us, you can be sure that that is something that they have, that they embody that. So they have grit, stick-to-itiveness, persistence. That means that they're going to go after them. If they bite on, they're going to fight for you and for the deal. And I think we have a deal going. Brian is the epitome of that. He's got a deal right now that we're on our 14th?
No, 15th.
15th extension.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
15th
That
extension.
takes grit.
Yeah, so that takes grit.
earnest money for each of those.
Hard.
So talk to us about how you developed that. And I know that your love of Sonic food was one of the reasons, because I've known you for a long time, but talk about the whole Ironman thing. How did you get started in that?
That's a great story. One day I picked up a young girl at a church activity, and she was brand new, and I said, "What are you doing? What brought you to Nashville?" She said, "My dad is going to open Jack in the Boxes in Nashville." I said, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he's going to put in by every Sonic and run you out of business." I'm like, "The heck you say?" And I stopped the van and said, "You should get out now."
I'll have to interject. He was a pastor at the time.
I was.
So
he's
he's a youth pastor. So he's kidding.
I didn't put her out.
And
No,
he
I
wasn't
didn't put her
just
out.
randomly picking up some young girl and saying.
That did sound bad.
That did sound bad.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to help you out there, David.
It was a youth group. We were going to a church activity, and she told me that. And so I met her dad. He had just moved here to open Jack in the Boxes, and found out that he had done an Ironman race. And I had no idea. 2.5-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a marathon in the same day. And I found out he did that, and I found out he was going to do one. And so I signed up. Because I was not going to lose to a Jack in the Box. And so I signed up and kicked his trash. Totally kicked his trash. Since then, I've done 17 Ironmans. I've done the World Championship in Kona, Hawaii, and triathlons are a lot of fun. I'm doing a half Ironman on May the 7th in Panama City. So that's kind of a passion. And Ironman is a lot like business. It takes grit. when you're, after you swam 2.5 miles and you're at mile 80 on a bicycle, and you realize you have 32 miles on the bicycle left, and then you have to run a freaking marathon, that takes grit. I mean, I've cried. Tears have come down. What am I thinking? And then you pay money to do it. That's the stupid part. You pay an entry fee to do it.
Not only that, but you have to fly to go there.
That's right.
And you're not just paying for you to go there. You're paying for your whole entourage
Yeah.
because you don't just ever do this by yourself.
No, never.
He brings like the fam, everybody, and he's got, you know, his peeps that do it with him too. So.
Ironman's a great experience because everybody has grit and everybody works hard and everybody can do hard things. And so it's a great team to be a part of.
And it helps if you work at Sonic and you're eating fries every day. You gotta run run those.
I tell everybody I
out.
run so I can eat. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Sonic.
Yeah, pretty much so.
I think you had a question.
Yeah, do we have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. This is related to the raising money part. You said the first deal you did, you raised money from 3 investors.
Yes.
And then you bought them out.
Yes,
And then the second one, you got a bank to give you the loan.
100%.
Like, did you keep using banks after that? Did you use investors? And because my hardest thing is just finding, like, I hear a lot of people using hard money or private investors. First of all, I just don't know many private investors or hard money guys. And then second off, I don't have 2 years of tax returns to use a bank. And so I usually try to find seller finance deals.
Yeah.
And then, but so that's just kind of what I'm curious about. How did you structure those deals? Like, how did you tell them you're going to pay them this much? Like, how did you know how much to pay them after that 2 years? Like, I don't
Great
know.
question. Okay, I can answer that. I called Sonic Industries and I said, I need some investors. And so they gave me some names of some franchisees that had money. And so they're the ones that I said, listen, I've got an MBA. I worked at Sonic through high school. I can run a Sonic. I will do all the sweat. So I had the sweat equity. So that's how I got that deal structured.
Gotcha.
On a piece of property that I offered 150 grand for and had no idea how I was going to pay for it. And then what I did after my luck ran out and I wasn't able to get 100% financing anymore, I did bring in some partners. And the thing that my partners all understood is they were silent. I made that very, very clear. Here's the dollar amount. Here's your percentage that you will get.
That's a
And
percentage of, like,
a percentage
net
of the
profit?
operating company. Yeah.
Okay.
So
for
the-
equity deals.
So it's 100% of a Sonic. I would give him he or she at 5% ownership for $30,000, and then I would take that $30,000 and I would put it down at the bank for my down payment.
Gotcha.
And to this day, I probably have 17 partners, and they still get mailbox money from Sonic every day.
That's awesome.
And they send me thank you notes and master's tickets and everything I can get. So they're very, very grateful. I've got a lot of partners who've made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I needed the cash. So
Yeah.
I was able to put those deals together.
Why did you go silent? Why did you make them silent partner?
All because none of them knew how to run a Sonic, and I did.
Well,
Yeah.
so you and I've had conversations about this, and investing in partnerships, because I've drilled deep into your amazing, beautiful brain about that, and he uses the phrase aprons versus.
Yeah.
You want to
Yes.
talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Of course. A lot of my partners also wear aprons, and in fact, they work at Sonics. So when I knew I had 100% of a store and I would give 20% to the investors that I needed the cash, I would also give another 20% to the guys with aprons, the managers and the supervisors. My supervisors of all
Pretty
my
smart.
My supervisors of all my Sonics got no salary, zero. They got 10% ownership of each store that they supervised.
That's a lot for those type of restaurants.
Yeah, so they did really well.
How long did they get that? For what period?
I would give a 5-year stipulation. If they were with me for 5 years, then it was theirs and they could sell it for market value. It would be vested at that point in time.
But they can sell their share.
Just their share, yeah. And I had first right of refusal.
But can you imagine right now trying to hire in this environment without something like that mechanism? Getting managers? We have a mutual friend who literally has had to build an apartment building and give subsidized rent to the people and they're not hiring from here, they're recruiting from outside to get the
their managers to come outside of Nashville with the lure of being able to have a subsidized rent at the apartment building that he built. But yet you figured that out early on to incentivize. Isn't that brilliant?
I have this theory that you cannot swim across the lake with all the gold on your back. You've got to share it, especially in fast food. You have to give a lot of that money to those that are actually flipping the burgers.
Just following up with that, I'm assuming that's not a common practice for other people who own Sonics to do that?
Actually, I'll interrupt you. The guy who started Sonic started the whole concept of
Oh, okay.
of ownership with management. Yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna ask if you knew how better were your sales because of doing that in comparison to other guys who weren't doing it, but I guess if it's a common practice, it would be pretty similar.
Yeah, a lot of Sonics are like that with
Okay.
owner, operator, managers. Yeah.